our last class we talked about a religion. People, they wanted a God they could see, and they wanted a religion they could feel, and they got it there at the foot of Mount Sinai, but it got some of them killed. We're going to talk about the Ark of the Covenant right now. People have all kinds. The Ark of the Covenant is a very big subject. You know, we have Raiders of the Lost Ark. Remember that back there with Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark? And the Lost Ark was in Egypt. Well, it's not in Egypt. It is not in Jerusalem under some tunnel. People have a theory that when Jesus Christ died on the cross of Calvary and the earthquake split, that down underneath that Mount Calvary there was a cavern down there, a tunnel down there, and the Ark of the Covenant was in there. And as Jesus' blood dripped down, it went down and dripped upon the Ark of the Covenant, right upon the mercy seat. Well, that's just not so. It sounds real good. There's a lot of things that sound real good. You know, the problem with people is one thing, they don't study the Bible. Number two, they don't study the ancient manuscripts about the Bible and church history. They don't do that. And so when they don't do that, they are victim to all of these ideas about the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is not in a tunnel underneath Jerusalem someplace. The Ark of the Covenant is not in Ethiopia. Now, you can go to Ethiopia there where the Queen of Sheba, you know, she came to Jerusalem. She cohabited with Solomon. That was his 1,001 wife that he had. He had 1,001 wives. She was 1,001. And he impregnated her. She went back and had a child. And Haile Selassie, there is a group of people in Ethiopia that are what they call the Black Jews. Mm-hmm. And they are Jewish. They can trace their DNA right back to Solomon. And they do that. She took a facsimile of the Ark of the Covenant with her. They say that she took the real one. You can't touch the real one. God would kill you. You cannot touch that real Ark of the Covenant. Nobody is going to take off with the Ark of the Covenant. Indiana Jones, nobody is going to take off with the Ark of the Covenant. Nor some German or some archaeologist. You're not going to take off with the Ark of the Covenant. That's not going to happen. The Ark of the Covenant is a very special thing with God. As we study the book of Exodus, we talked there about the Ark of the Covenant there. So the Ark of the Covenant is not in a tunnel underneath Jerusalem. And you can go on YouTube and you can look at all this stuff now, and they'll tell you it's there and all this kind of stuff, but it is not there. And I say that with definition and with authority. I'm going to tell you where it is. About where it is. But you're not going to find it, nobody else is going to find it until God is ready for you to find it. And Israel will find it. It is not in Ethiopia. It is not on Oak Island. The Knights Templar didn't take it to Oak Island either. It's not there. They're always, they got this Oak Island show. I guess you ever watch that, Larry?
Yes,
Oak Island. The Ark of the Covenant is not on Oak Island. It's not down someplace. It's not buried in some cave someplace. It is not there. Okay? It is not there. I'll tell you where it is in a little while. The Ark of the Testimony, that's what we talked about, just the last thing we were talking about in the book of Exodus there, Wheelie Shemot. Also known as the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Lord, the Ark of God, the Ark of the Testimony was the object most sacred to the Israelites during the wilderness, and even it was in Shiloh for 400 years. We do know that the Ark of the Covenant testimony looks like. We've got kind of an idea of what it looks like, facsimile. There were some ancient depictions of it. Archaeologists have discovered some drawings and chippings and engravings of it. In Exodus 25:10 through 22, it tells us what it looks like. It tells us a description of it. From that account, we know some facts about the Ark of the Covenant. It's not very big. Not a very big object. Its physical appearance is like a box. It's 45 inches long. About like that. About as big as this pulpit here. About 45 inches long. It is 27 inches high and 27 inches wide. It's made from acacia wood. It's made from it's an evergreen wood with a lot of sap in it. They had two poles that had rings on the side of it, and has two poles in those that goes through those rings, and the priest had to carry it, specified priest. The lid of the ark is called the mercy seat, or the kafar, or hilasmos, or hilasterion. In 1 John 2:2, it says Jesus is our mercy seat. He is our atonement. It's called the place of atonement also. It's called the mercy seat, the place of the atonement. It's there once a year that the high priest would take and sprinkle blood on the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Yom, Day, Atonement. Yom Kippur. And if you look on your calendar, there's a Yom Kippur on there. Holiday. Leviticus 16:15. Mounted on the lid was two cherubim. Cherubim is how you say it in Hebrew, cherubim. Cherubim is an order of angels. Lucifer was a order of cherubim. Did you know that? Lucifer was a cherubim. Now there's two cherubims on this Ark of the Covenant, and I've got a little picture of it here. We'll look at it here real quick. There's the Ark of the Covenant right there. I'll put it up here for the camera. The cloud is standing over the Ark of the Covenant. Right there, it's the dimensions that I told you. That's the Ark of the Covenant. That's a very special object to God, because God said that He would meet there with Moses between the cherubim. He would meet there with Moses. And with the high priest, He would meet there and forgive the sins of the people of Israel on the day of Yom Kippur. The commandments which Moses received on Mount Sinai. What does Sinai mean? Come on, girls. What Sinai mean? Thorns. Thank you, Sharon. Thorns. Thorns. Mount Sinai means thorns. And what were the thorns on Mount Sinai?
Blackbirds.
Wild blackberry bushes. That's the wild blackberry bush that Moses saw burning, and it didn't burn up. They don't burn up, you know. It wouldn't stop burning, but the fire was there, but it didn't stop burning. And that's what spooked Moses, because it didn't burn out. It just kept on burning, and it was in that bush. In this Ark of the Covenant is the two tablets of stone that God wrote with His finger on it. You know, there was two sets of those tablets. The first set of tablets God carved out from rock, and then He wrote with His own hand. It says that by the finger of God that He wrote the commandments Himself. Then Moses took them down, and he saw the horrible thing that was going on down there at the foot of Mount Sinai, and he got mad and threw the cabinets and broke them. And then he had to go back up. By the way, he didn't eat for over 2 months. 40 days, he was gone. He came down, went down there, took care of business, went back up there, in 40 days again he was gone. Without eating. God sustained him. All of that miracle, miraculously. In that Ark of the Covenant in Exodus 20, it says there's a golden jar of manna. Manna comes from mah, page 580 in Brown Driver Briggs. Mah, mah. Mah means what? What is it? Manna means what is it? They didn't know what it was. So there's a jar of this golden manna, that is in this golden jar, and there's Aaron's rod which budded also. That's the rod. Now this was the rod was from a almond tree. It was like almond branch. And when it budded, now this rod goes all the way back into eternity past. Tradition says, the book of Jasher says, this is the rod that God held in his hand when he created the heavens and the earth. It was a pre-incarnate rod made from a almond tree before he ever created it. And so here we have this rod. It had a sapphire stone in the head of it, they said. And this rod budded. And it's thousands of years old. Maybe a million. Who knows how old it is. That, according to Hebrews, the 9th chapter and verse number 4, it talks about the manna, the golden jar of manna, and Aaron's rod which budded. And the Israelites were told by God that God dwelled between the cherubim. Now, why two cherubim? By the way, a cherubim is an order of angels that has wings. They have wings. They're a seraphim also, and the angels, burning ones, and this here is a cherubim. But why do we have two angels? Because by 2 or 3 witnesses let everything be established. The two angels bore witness every time the Day of Atonement, the blood was spread on there. The two witnesses, the two angels swore that Jesus was born in this world. The two angels swear that you're conceived, and then when you're born in this world, they conceive, they also bear witness to God when you're born again, and they bear witness to God when you die, and they take you to be with Him, your spirit and your soul with Him at the point of death. Two angels, all the time. So there between those two angels, that's where God said, I'll meet with you. God spoke to Moses there in Numbers 7 and 89. And during their years wandering in the wilderness, as they were being prepared to enter into the promised land, 40 years, the ark was carried ahead of the Israelites when they left Mount Sinai. And it was carried ahead of them when they crossed the Jordan River. And it was carried with them when they marched 7 times around the city of Jericho and the walls fell down. It was there at Shiloh for basically 400 years. And then finally, when Solomon built the Temple of Solomon, they took it and put it in the Temple of Solomon. A lot of things in the Temple of Solomon were a lot different than they were in the tabernacle. In Joshua 6, 1 through 20, it tells about when the walls fell down. It was placed in Solomon's temple in 1 Kings 8, 1 through 9. The Babylonians were sent by God. He used the Babylonians to castigate Israel and to punish them for what they did. And the Ark of the Covenant was carried off into captivity, some people say. That's not true either. It wasn't. They have different pictures of the Ark of the Covenant being carried off. Now, let me read to you someplace where the Ark of the Covenant is. I have been really close to the Ark of the Covenant. Did you know that? I have been on the same mountain where God put that Ark of the Covenant. Now we're going to go to the Apocrypha. Now the Apocrypha is not basically an inspired book. But 1st and 2nd Maccabees in the Apocrypha is absolute factual history. And in the Apocrypha, in different places, there are inspired quotations. Okay? Now, we're going to go to the 2nd Maccabees, the 2nd chapter. This is a history book. It's a history book. The book of Jasher, someplace around here. Right here, if I don't knock everything off. The book of Jasher, Hasefer Yashur. That's it. This is a history book. Now, Paul quoted this book. It is spoken of in Joshua 10 verse 13, 2 Samuel 1:18, and 2 Timothy 3:8. It's quoted from the book of Jasher. Jasher is a historian. And I have read all these books, by the way. It would be good for you to read them. The book of Jasher, the book of Enoch. Different books that we have access to that are very old. Now let me read this to you here for just a few moments. A continuation of the second letter of Jeremiah. Hiding the ark at the time of the captivity. Now it was found in the descriptions of Jeremiah the prophet. Jeremiah, you know who Jeremiah was? Jeremiah, whom Jehovah launches forth. That's what his name means. Jeremiah the prophet. Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah in the Bible, and I've translated part of this and written, I did some classes on the book of Jeremiah too. Jeremiah is how you say it, Jeremiah, whom Jehovah launches forth. Now it was found in the descriptions of Jeremiah the prophet that commanded them that they went into captivity to take the fire, as it had been signified, and how he gave charge to them that were carried away into captivity. Jeremiah is telling them, by the way, Jeremiah kept telling them they were going to be carried away, and they kept beating him up. Every time they tell him you're going to be castigated by God, they beat him up. They torture him. They stuck him one time, they threw him in an outhouse, up to his armpits and urine and feces. They put him in file 13, so to speak. They hated him. But God was using him. You read the book of Jeremiah, it's pretty big. That's what they call one of the major prophets, because it's big, a lot of prophecy, and he's a prophet. Jeremiah is a prophet. We got a lot of modern prophets running around that aren't prophets, by the way. If they judged them like Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Daniel and all of them, the first time they made a slip, they'd be stoned to death. That's how you tell the true prophet. If everything doesn't come about what you say, then you are to be stoned. It's a death penalty. Because you're a false prophet. You're an anti-God. You're antichrist. And how he gave them the law that they should not forget the commandments of the Lord, and that they should not err in their minds, seeing the idols of gold and the silver and the ornaments of them. By the way, God made Israel so sick of idolatry when he sent them into the Babylonian captivity. They never did worship idols again. But the one thing they did, they were idol worshippers, and they started worshiping the Word of God. And that's where you have the Babylonian captivity, or the Babylonian Talmud, which is right down there, all those books right across there. They wrote commentaries on the Bible instead of just reading the Bible. One young Jewish boy was on YouTube here a while back, and he said, you know what, we talk about that. We sit and we talk about the Bible. We talk about the mission of the Talmud and all this, the Jerusalem Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud and all this. But he said, read the Bible. It's exciting. Read the Bible. Quit doing that. Read the Bible. And here we have a man of God that was given instructions. And with each of these like speeches, he exhorted them that they would not remove the law from their heart. We know this happened. This happened. And it was also contained in the same writing how that the prophet being warned by God. Now he prophesied the captivity, didn't he? And now he's warned by God. God warns him. Not everything that happened in history is written in the Bible. The book of Jasher will really help you understand the names of the women a lot of time, Noah's wife, and who they were and where they came from and all this. The book of Jasher tells you that. It tells you how old that Moses' mother was when she got married, how old she was when he was born and all of this. It tells you all of that and what her name was and what all of Moses' name were. Moses had about 10 names. Everybody named him something different. That the prophet being warned by God commanded that the tabernacle and the ark, the tabernacle was totally different, the furniture, than what was in the temple. That he should accompany him till he came forth to the mountain where Moses went up. Where's that?
Mount Sinai.
Yeah. and saw the inheritance of God. Where was that? Where did Moses go up? What nation did he go up in today and saw the inheritance of God? He went up on the mountain. And he looked down and he saw Jericho and he saw the promised land out there. And he was 120 years old and he could see just like you can, Marilyn. She got perfect eyesight. He saw the promised land up there from Mount Pisgah, and it's in Jordan today. It's in Jordan. I've been on that mountain. And somewhere on that mountain is where the Ark of the Covenant is. I can tell you that because the prophet of God took it there. It's not on Oak Island. It is not in a cave underneath some cave or some tunnel in Jerusalem. It is not in Egypt. It is not in any figment of people's imagination. It's not in Egypt somewhere. And when Jeremiah came there, he found a hollow cave. And he carried it in there, the tabernacle and the ark and the altar of incense, and he stopped the door of the cave. Then some of them that followed him came up to mark the place, but they could not find it. And when Jeremiah perceived it, he blamed them, saying, the place shall be unknown. Nobody will know where the Ark of the Covenant is till God gathered together the congregation of the people and received them unto mercy. When's that going to happen? Over yonder.
Yeah.
Right here. That's where that's going to happen. That Ark of the Covenant is going to go into New Jerusalem. Or not New Jerusalem in heaven, but Jerusalem in Palestine. It's going to go there, and that Ark of the Covenant is going to be there. But there's also an Ark of the Covenant in heaven. Because the Ark of the Covenant in heaven, and there's where Jesus' blood was sprinkled on the Ark of the Covenant in heaven. Moses saw the Ark of the Covenant in heaven, and he said, you go down there and you build one just like it. Make sure it's just like it. And receive them unto mercy. And then the Lord will show these things, and the majesty of the Lord shall appear, and there shall be a cloud, as it was when he showed it to Moses. There's going to be a cloud. God is going to send a cloud to stand over that Ark of the Covenant in Jordan, and they're going to find it. Because a cloud is going to mark the spot, and the fire in the cloud at night shall mark the spot. And he showed it then when Solomon prayed that the place might be sanctified to the great God of heaven. Now, when they built that Ark of the Covenant to begin with, and they got all of the tabernacle finished, and tabernacle is this thing right here. This whole thing. Jeremiah took it all. All of this is in that cave. All of it. The tabernacle, that's all of this. All of this tabernacle here, the table of showbread, the altar of incense, the candlestick, all of this is in that cave. And also, ashes of the red heifer are in that cave. They keep looking for a red heifer today, don't they? It wouldn't do them any good if they sacrificed in anything in Jerusalem today. It would be blasphemy to God. Because the ultimate sacrifice is already given once for all. Hapax. Once for all. There shall be a cloud as it was showed to Moses. There was a cloud over that Ark of the Covenant, and at nighttime it was a pillar of fire, and that cloud protected, and that cloud warmed the whole nation of Israel during that wilderness. It was protection and heat and fire and mercy and love, like a mother hen would gather her little baby chicks, as Jesus said there from the Mount of Olives. And he showed it to Solomon, and Solomon prayed, and then it says that the cloud the glory of God so covered that tabernacle when it was built and dedicated that the people couldn't see each other. For the majestic glory of God. And then when Solomon dedicated the temple, they couldn't see each other for the glory of God. The cloud is going to show them where the Ark of the Covenant is. But it's not time to find it. You're not going to find it. Indiana Jones not going to find it. Not going to find it on Oak Island. Not going to find it in Ethiopia, even though you can go see one there. It was a facsimile of it. She took one with her. She took the religion with her. And Moses said, because the sin offering was not eaten, it was consumed. Wait a minute. And as Moses prayed to the Lord, and fire came down from heaven and consumed the holocaust, so Solomon also prayed, and the fire came down from heaven and consumed the holocaust. And Moses said, because of the sin offering was not eaten, it was consumed. So Solomon also celebrated the dedication 8 days. And these same things were set down in the memoirs and the commentaries of Nehemiah, and how that he made a library and gathered together out of the countries the books both of the prophets and of David and the epistles of the kings and concerning the holy gifts. And it goes on and tells about all the things that they did over there. The Ark of the Covenant is not on Oak Island. It's not under Jerusalem in a tunnel. It's not in Ethiopia. It's on the mount where Moses saw the inheritance of God. That's where it is. You're not going to find it. You can take the best metal detectors in the world, and you're not going to find it. God said He's not going to let it be seen until the time that He gathers His people back, and they take that Ark of the Covenant, that tabernacle, and they take it back to Jerusalem once and finally for all. And for 1,000 years, in that millennial reign, it'll be in Jerusalem. And I don't know about the eternal ages. You know, it doesn't say a whole lot about that, but God is going to completely, it says that He's going to just purify the heavens and the earth, and there won't be any sin in them anymore. No more sin. No more. Like gold and silver is refined, and all the dross is carried away, so God will create a new heaven and new earth, and then He will be the light thereof, because there won't be there will not be any need of the sun or anything. There's not going to be a bunch of worlds out there like Mormonism thinks, that they what the ancestor worship, basically what Mormons do. Because Adam God is the only God which they have to do with, which is their great grandfather, so to speak, many times removed. The God of heaven is Elohim, Jehovah, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's who God is. And God will show mankind where that Ark of the Covenant is one of these days. He'll show them. The Ark of the Covenant is in Jordan. It's on that mountain where God showed Moses the promised land. He wouldn't let him go through. By the way, Moses is buried on that mountain too, isn't he? Moses is buried on that mountain. God buried Moses there. Basically, Moses was 120 years old. He was strong as he was when he was 30 years old. He had good eyesight. He didn't cripple around and limp and things like that. He was a man of great power when he was 120 years old, kind of like Jacob was. You read the wars in the book of Jasher about Jacob, how powerful he was when he was old. Moses, his step was sharp, his eyes were sharp, his hearing was sharp, his voice was strong and clear when he was 120 years old. And God kissed him to death. I remember one of my teachers, Brother Carl Farrar, Dr. Carl E. Farrar. He said God loved Moses so much, he just kissed him and he died. And God buried him. God buried him. God buried him on that mountain. That's where he is also. And then the Bible says that Satan looked and tried to find and tried to steal the body of Moses. And the Archangel Michael stopped him. I'm sure that Lucifer tried to drag out the Ark of the Covenant so somebody could worship that. They would have been worshiping the bones of Moses otherwise. The Bible is a beautiful book. Read it. Read the history books about the Bible, like the Apocrypha there. Read 1st and 2nd Maccabees. It's history. It's accurate history. The book of Joshua is history. Paul quoted it. It was quoted in 2 Samuel 1:18. It was in Joshua 10:1 through 3. Quotes the book of Joshua. You can find out some things there that even the Bible doesn't say. Not that the Bible just doesn't say everything that happened back then. It tells you the most important points. The Bible says, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. It says in Galatians, the 4th chapter, verse 4, it says, when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, that he might redeem us that were under the curse of the law. The Bible says, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. These are Bible doctrines. The doctrine of God the Son is a basic, necessary doctrine. A lot of them say, well, these are not necessary. Yes, it is necessary. The doctrine of the church is necessary. The doctrine of the atonement is necessary. The doctrine of sin is necessary. The doctrine of the resurrection. Without these doctrines, you have no religion. You don't have Christianity. And Israel is God's thermometer of what's going on in the world today. We see Israel carried away into dispersion because of what they did to the Messiah. They killed their king. Regathering of Israel, Ezekiel 36:20-24. We're seeing that today. We see in the world today, you know, the Bible doesn't say much about America, does it? But America has been a stronghold of Christianity. They sent many missionaries out. Almost all the rest of the world has gone so liberal and everything, and now, boy, we have got a liberal administration that just hates God, period. Hates God. Everything God says, they fight it. They blaspheme the name of God. They blaspheme the creation of God. They blaspheme. And that's what's going to happen in the end time, remember? That's what the book says. But we know one thing, that God's going to bring it all back together, straighten it all out. Our Father, we send this message out for your honor and glory. Please use it. Help people to understand the fallicities of the false teachings that are in the world today, all of the fancy ideas that people have. I pray that you touch people's lives with your sound word. Even where your ark is, you know. Only you do.